Hi everyone, it's Jackie at Spare Room Studio. I've got a little bit of a different video for you today. I've just been playing with all my different water-based markers and using an old plate and the water brush. And I thought I'd just show you a few things because I've had a few of you mention that you don't have the same particular pens that I've been demonstrating with, but I want you to see that you don't need the same pens as I am using to get similar results. So this particular page here, it's Kawaii Tarot Colouring Book by Lulu Mayo. I've used about 6 different pens on that page and 6 different brands, and I cannot tell them apart. So what I thought I would do is do a bit of a demonstration colouring a page, and you can see what I mean in action. Okay, so we'll put that one aside. So this book is new to me, Lunar Colouring by Stratton Peterson. I bought it a few weeks ago and haven't actually worked in it as yet, but I have chosen this page here to get started in. Now I apologise, I've got a very silly dog in the background. He's very hyped up at the moment. We've been practicing with getting in the car, which is a real struggle, and he did really well, so I've been playing with him, but he is super hyped up still, and I'm just going to let him go and he'll settle in his own time. So what I would like to show you is a variety of different types of water-based markers and how they all essentially work the same. And so I do have some different colours here. I'm going to get rid of the blues, and I might just grab a couple of purples, because what I want you to see is that they really do look very similar. All that changes is the colour intensity maybe, but not how they work. So what I might do to start with is I'm going to just put a little bit of water down. I haven't worked in this book before, so I don't know how the paper's going to react, but there isn't an image on the other side, so that doesn't matter quite so much. So we'll start with what we know. We'll start with a Crayola Super Tip. So that's just placing the marker onto the plate, wetting it with a water brush, and then applying it to damp paper. So that's the Crayola. Next I'm going to try the Crazy Art, which looks very similar to a Crayola. Now I'm not getting all exactly the same colours, so that is going to make a bit of a difference. And in fact I didn't clean my brush off well enough there. This isn't a great start, is it? So let's go for the Crazy Art. So that's the Crazy Art. And, oops, that's the Crazy Art there. Okay, next I'm going to use Milan, which is a student grade, very much student grade, student budget priced marker. So if you're wondering what Hamish is doing, he has a, oh sorry, I've got the wrong one again. He has a chewy ball that he's brought in from outside, and he's currently throwing it around the house and being a lunatic, but he's happy, so I'm going to let him go. Okay, so that was the Milan. Next I'm going to try a Faber-Castell connector pen. Now the difference is you will see, because this has such a small nib compared to the other markers, it is harder to get the colour down onto the plate. However, it dilutes just as easily. And I'm not giving any thought to the design here. I'm just putting the colours down and I'll work with it later. But I just wanted to do a bit of a demonstration for you. I swear that this dog, I'm sorry, he's making me laugh. I swear that when I sit down and do something for myself, he decides that's when he's going to go crazy. Okay, so that was the Faber-Castell connector pen. Next I have this Anko brand, which is a cheap department store here in Australia called Kmart. It's their own home brand and it's called Anko. And essentially they are all working exactly the same way, and in fact we can mix them together and blend the colours from the different sets together and they play no problem. Some colours do separate and that will take a little bit of practice and use to work out which colours do separate. But I personally kind of like that very much myself and like to go with it. And then lastly, I'm going to use the Koi colouring brush pen, which is by far the most expensive out of all of these markers that I've got here. The others are all very much budget price, and these aren't, they're not like in the Tombow, or perhaps they are. They may be in the Tombow sort of price range, I guess. And I've diluted that with quite a lot of water anyway, so the intensity of the colour isn't there. So the only difference that I can think of in all of these pens would be perhaps the dye in the expensive pens could potentially be more light fast than the cheaper ones. And I'm saying potentially because I haven't looked into that. I haven't done any research. I'm just talking out loud and saying that, you know, to my mind, I'm thinking that that might potentially be the only difference over these cheaper brand markers. So if you were wanting to sort of take the picture out of the book and have it out in the open, it might make a difference. Whereas if you're just working in a book and then closing the book and only looking at it now and again, I can't see that it's going to make a huge difference. And you can see, I think this was the Faber-Castell connector pen, if I remember correctly, is separating more. But essentially they all look the same. You see I'm quite wet there. Okay, so I've used, let's have a see. Let's have a look. And then so just in that little demonstration, I used the Anko water brush markers, very budget priced. The Koi colouring brush pen, which is the most expensive of them all. Faber-Castell connector pen, which is very cheap here in Australia. I don't know about other countries. Crazy Art, which were, you know, equivalent to a Crayola here in Australia. I believe in the US they might be cheaper. Milan, and the Crayola Super Tips. So 6 different types of water-based markers there, and I cannot tell any difference at all. None at all. So please don't feel that you have to have exactly the same. Sorry, I've got a lot of stuff going on the table here. Don't ever think that you have to have exactly the same brand of marker as I'm using to colour your page. You will still get decent results no matter what brand you're using. Now this is another book I haven't coloured in yet. It says Townscapes, Animals, Variety Goods, Cakes, Flowers, Cooking and 5 Bears. So I've seen Colouring with Kay do this page beautifully, and I think Maya, you might have done this one as well, which does worry me a little bit to colour it on camera. Let me see if I can just adjust this little bit now. Sorry to do that while we're recording, but you know my technical difficulties at the moment. So what I think I might do with this one is I might try some different blues and get a bit of a sky going, and just get this page started. Now I've just got some tissue paper here that I'm going to wipe that plate. So that's how easy it is to clean up. And I'll get that paper towel back. And I think I'll just choose a few of the lighter blues, some Crayolas. This is the Milan set. Let's see. Actually, I probably had a nice blue there. And this is the Crayola Super Tips in the pastel shades. So I'm just going to pull out the light blue. Is that the same colour as that one? No. Okay. So let's just see how it all works on this particular paper. If you've got any of the Japanese books, it will just give you an idea how it might work for you. So that's the Crayola. I'm going to, whoops, I haven't cleaned my brush off first. I'll just get rid of that and I'll clean that brush off. Okay. You're really seeing a warts and all episode today. What with the dog, with me being very disorganised. But I just had a little window of time where I thought that I might be able to get this done. I've got a weekend coming up where my granddaughter stays with us, so I don't have the time or the space to get everything out when she's here, because she just wants to use everything as well then. And there are some of my things that I'm a little bit more precious about. And then also Hamish is going to have a bit of a test in that my parents are coming to visit because it's my mother's birthday soon. And besides my son and his friend and my granddaughter, we haven't really had any visitors yet, just to keep things quiet for him. So it's going to be a little bit of a test to see how he copes with several visitors that are all new faces. So now he's playing with a tennis ball in the background. And we don't see him this hyped up very often, to be fair. It's quite infrequent that he's actually hyped up and behaving like a dog. So it's kind of nice to see him amusing himself a little bit and not actually needing my guidance on how to play. It's an awful lot of noise for you though. Now I've just dragged the edge of the plastic bit along that paper and it's actually left a little mark in there. So where it scratched the surface of the paper and then the water has gone into it, I'm not sure, but I've never actually had that happen before, I don't think. So this is very rough and ready. But it's more for the sake of an experiment more than giving you a demonstration of how to colour. But I really want you to see how all of these different inks can play nicely together on the one page, and also you don't need lots of different expensive brands to be able to achieve a decent result. So that's the Faber-Castell connector pen coming in. And you'll see that a lot of these colours are really very similar anyway. Each set does have a lot of similar colours in it. So I know we get sort of hung up thinking we need lots of different sets for variety and different colours, but they end up looking a lot the same anyway. And what you can do, of course, is if you've got a limited set, I'm not sure if it was you, Audrey, that said you had a small set of Crayolas. Forgive me if I'm wrong there. But, so that was a Milan. And this one is a Crayola. But, you know, just mix them together if you feel like you need something a bit different that's not in the set. My goodness, Hamish, you're making a lot of noise, mate. He's chewing on a tennis ball, so if you're wondering what all that racket is. So those of you who've been following me all along and know the story of Hamish, you will understand why I'm kind of happy to just let him go and make all that noise, and it's kind of a almost a relief to know that he's happy enough that he's behaving in this way. I know this is a channel about colouring, but you know, real life does come into these things sometimes, and you know, when you're pushed for time, you just have to record when you can. And this is just all part of what's, you know, happening in my life in the background at the moment. So I'm sorry if you don't like hearing all those sorts of things. You know, I might not be your channel, but if you are a fellow dog lover or animal lover, then I think you probably will be happy to cut me some slack while we get through all of this with him. Okay, so that's the sky done, well, part of the sky done, just to show you. I'm also going to maybe do some greens, and I've got a Crazy Art here, which is a very blue green. And we'll just use a darker one as well. And maybe we'll get a lighter one. And so I'm going to start with the lighter one. And then I'm going to introduce some other colours in to blend with it. Okay, so that's all the crazy art that I've got there on that little section, just in case you're interested in knowing specifically. If you feel like the colours aren't blending, just squeeze a little bit of water out of your water brush, or if you've got a regular brush and some pot of water, just drop a little bit of clean water in from your water pot. And then I might even just put a little bit of that blue in there as well. So all the colours are blending on the plate, and I really don't even know which marker is which now. This is how similar it all is. But it does show you how the water-based inks do all work together. You can experiment with your colours from various sets and use them all together. Okay, so the difference I'd say is, for example, with the Faber-Castell connector pen, now that nib's a bit chewed up, so it's a bit softer and it's working quite well there. But the nibs are a lot finer and smaller, so the only difference I can see between that and, for example, the Crazy Art, which is it's shaped like a Crayola super tip, is that it goes down a lot quicker on the plate, and that really is the only difference that I can see. When it comes to diluting it, it's acting in exactly the same way. Now, some of you will know that I like to use my marker directly onto the paper and blend it on the paper and apply water and so on. I'm finding this a much more enjoyable way to work. However, I do think when I'm working on the sofa, I will still go back to my default way of working probably, because this will be a bit harder to manage. I really have limited space when I'm working sitting on the sofa, and I don't know whether I'd end up wearing half of this colour. The plate would probably slide around and spill and so on. So, you know, I'm not confident that I would be able to pull that off without making a big mess somehow. I'm just going to drop some water back into that because it looks very solid there. So let's see how that goes. So if you've watched me and you've been encouraged to try the Faber-Castell connector pens, they will work this way. If you have the good old trusty Crayola super tips, they will work this way. If you have any supermarket brand, student grade colour markers, you know, in your collection that you have paid very little for, they should work this way. And of course, if you've got Tombows, Ohuhu, any of those big name, they will work. And if you have, you know, the ones that look like this, that is a brush tip and a fine liner down the other end, and they're a no-name off of Amazon, they should work like it. All of them should work exactly the same. I'll be hugely surprised if they don't. Now a fine liner or something with a really small tip is going to be really hard to get enough colour on to the plate to work with. That's the only thing that I can see that might be an issue with the fine liner style water-based, is that just for application, you know, it's going to be really hard to get enough colour onto that piece of plastic or plate or palette to achieve this effect. I don't think it's impossible, but I think you'll find that it is going to be quite difficult. It's pretty much easier to do it with these markers with a bigger, softer nib. And sorry, just thinking about what I was doing there. You know, it's going to be less work for you to just lay it down onto that piece of plastic or plate than what the smaller nibs will be. And then you can come over and you can use a wet wash over dry. You really much, whatever you could do with watercolour techniques, you could probably do working with the pens this way with a bit of practice. I think really it just comes down to practicing the techniques, experimenting and opening yourself up to trying the new things. But I think essentially you can treat any of this diluted water-based colour here like you would any other type of watercolour medium. So the paper is cockling a bit because I'm using a bit of water there. Might potentially have some bleed through, but we'll see what that looks like when it dries. But I just wanted to show you more so how the markers all play together more than the actual book. So that's that one. That one's drying really nice. I love the way that that has separated there. You could really manipulate and play with that effect for a moon. Let's move some of these things out the way. So that book is Lunar Colouring, which is fairly new to me. It has been out a while, by Stratton Peterson. And this was the one that I did off camera, which is Kawaii Tarot Colouring Book by Lulu Mayo. And that's all the different markers that I can't even remember which one is which now. And it all looks pretty much the same to me. I can't pick any difference there at all. Okay, so I hope that is useful, and if you want to have a go with whatever you have, jump in, just do it, just have a go. There's really nothing to be lost by it. Just make sure that your paper can cope with having a little bit more water, or use your washes very sparingly. If you feel like your paper won't cope with it, maybe just use this in your smaller areas and not huge big washy areas. But old plate, a palette, you know, plastic sleeve, piece of plastic. I mentioned on another video that even the packaging that these come in, this has got a scratchy textured side on that side, but this side is perfectly smooth. There's no reason why you can't colour onto there, pick that up and work with it that way as well. So as long as it is non-porous, For convenience sake, I'd say something that's easy to wipe off or not precious, just in case. But you can see that that has all wiped off. That's a very low cost introduction to perhaps playing with watercolour techniques. So thanks for joining me, and I will see you in another video. Perhaps I might finish one of these pages, I'm not sure at this stage. But thank you for watching, and I will see you really soon. Bye now.